I want to welcome everybody in. Thank you for joining the latest edition of the virtual speaker session. If you are just joining us, go ahead and drop in the chat who you are and where you're zooming in from. Tell us your class year as well. We will begin shortly with retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Eugene McFeely, but we want to welcome everybody in to today's virtual speaker session. We'll be getting started in a minute. If you are just joining us, open up the chat box and let us know where you're zooming in from and what your class year is. Also, there's a Q&A function. If you have a question for Colonel McFeely, go ahead and drop a question in the Q&A box there now or at any point during the presentation, and we will try to get to as many questions as we possibly can. Welcome to the Alumni Association's virtual speaker session. We will be getting started in just a couple minutes. I see over 20 people now tuning in. I see Don McCall, currently in Virginia Beach from the class of 97. Welcome, Don. I see Bruce and Ruth Baumet, class of 1970 down in Chester County. Ruth, welcome. Looks like we are also live on Facebook. We will be getting started in just a minute. Let us know where you're zooming in from or where you're watching on Facebook Live. Drop it in the comments and let us know what class year you graduated from Penn State. I see Alice McFeely Malloy from the class of 1950. I think there might be some home cooking there. We'll find out if Alice has any connections to the speakers who we're presenting today. We see Jeff Allen from Mechanicsburg from the class of 93, Tracy from 91. Welcome in to the virtual speaker session. We will be getting started in just 1 minute. I see Jay Eifert from New York City, SMEAL class of 2009, Navy submarine supply officer from 2010 to 2017. Jay, thank you for your service and thanks for tuning in to the virtual speaker session. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association. It might be helpful if I turn my video on so that you can see me. I'd like to welcome everybody to today's virtual speaker session. As a reminder, today's session is being recorded. Today, we welcome retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Eugene McFeely, a Penn State graduate and Senior Director of Veteran Affairs Services here at Penn State. Today's discussion is the latest installment of a recurring series of virtual programming that the Alumni Association is bringing to the Penn State community. We'll be speaking with experts, university leaders, who will share insight and perspectives with you in the coming weeks and months. Additionally, you can find all the information about our events that we are hosting virtually at alumni.psu.edu/events. Now I'm happy to welcome retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Eugene McFeely, a 1989 graduate of Penn State with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. Upon graduation, he commissioned as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force through the ROTC program. After 27 years in the Air Force as a F-15E instructor, weapons systems officer, now Colonel McFeely joined Penn State in 2017 as the inaugural Senior Director of Veteran Affairs and Services. In his role, he is responsible for the overall leadership and oversight of the programs and services provided by Penn State to the military and the veteran student community across all of our campuses. Approximately 200,000 service members transition from the armed forces back to civilian life each year. And for those service members who choose to pursue higher education, our role as a land-grant institution is crucial in empowering these military-connected students to earn their degrees and succeed in their post-military endeavors. Penn State has over 5,000 military and veteran students across our campuses and provides a number of programs and services to help these students transition from service to college and empower them to succeed while at Penn State. Colonel McFeely will take us through and talk about Penn State's military and veteran community, our veteran programs and services, and how we empower these military-connected students to succeed. I want to welcome in retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Eugene McFeely. Huge welcome to the program.
All right, thanks, Paul. Appreciate the very kind words for the introduction and also the opportunity to speak to my brother and sister alumni about what I feel is a very important topic, so about our veteran community here at Penn State. So just to start off, I'll go ahead and start sharing my slides with everybody. And really just to start off, I'd like to kind of set a frame of reference. So imagine, if you will, that you're a student deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq in the combat zone, and you're 2 hours away from the deadline on your English literature paper. Imagine, if you will, that you're on a Navy destroyer in the middle of the Atlantic cramming for your next midterm test. Imagine that you're a National Guardsman serving in the Pennsylvania Guard, and then in the middle of the spring semester, you're called to active duty in order to support the COVID pandemic response. Imagine that you are separating from the service after serving 4 to 8 years. You have 1 week to pack up your entire household, also to kind of prepare and show up at a Penn State campus. Imagine that you're sitting in a calculus class with 300 other students, 5 to 10 years younger than you, and the last time you sat in a math class was 5 to 10 years ago. Those are just a few examples of our student experiences that we have for our service members and veterans that are part of their Penn State journey. So as far as a student, they're a very different student in a lot of ways. And as such, we work to support those students and help them transition from service back into education. So what I'm going to talk about today is about our military connected student community at Penn State, talk about the veteran services and programs that we have, and then talk a little bit about our mindset about empowering those young men and women to succeed. So when we talk about military connected students, there's really 4 categories that we can bin folks in. So at Penn State, if we say military connected students, we mean either service members, those are folks who are currently serving on active duty, in the National Guard serving, or in the Reserve serving. If we say veterans, that could be someone who's either served 20 plus years on active duty or in the Guard or Reserve, or folks who have separated at some point during their military service, short of full retirement. And then also, as part of that community is the dependents. So any spouses or children of our military members or veterans, we also serve those here at Penn State. And then we have ROTC, so one of the largest ROTC groupings in the Northeast of the United States, between our cadets and midshipmen for Air Force, Army, Navy, and the Marine services. So when we look at each of these subgroups within the military connected student community, there's very different personal situations and priorities for each of the folks that are in these categories, very different resources available to fund their education, and also very different policies and programs that we have to put in place to kind of help enable their access to higher education. But at the end of the day, there is overlap between these subgroups, and what bonds them together is basically their service in the military. So at Penn State, we have a veteran presence, and what I'm going to primarily talk about today is really our service members and our veterans. We have a veteran and service member present across all campuses at Penn State. At University Park, we have the largest population of resident veterans present. And then online, we have a huge community. As a matter of fact, the majority of our students who are military connected are actually part of the World Campus. And I'll have a slide to kind of show you what that looks like. At each of our campuses, we have a veteran liaison who helps our students gain access to either their Department of Defense or their Veteran Administration education benefits, such as the GI Bill, and also act as liaisons at each of the campuses for those students. And at the end of the day, why do these students choose Penn State? There's a lot of different reasons, right? Football may be top of the list for some, but a lot of the men and women who come to Penn State from the service are really looking for the diverse learning environments that we provide. So they can start their journey in education by starting online at World Campus. Once they separate from the service, and if they do come back to the state of PA, they can maybe finish at a brick and mortar campus. And that's really a neat advantage for these students. The other piece of this too is that it's just our campuses. We're so diverse on the campus spectrum. They can go to a campus that has only 450 students or come up here to University Park where we have 46,000. So that really gives a lot of different opportunity for our men and women in the service when they decide to choose a university. Also, along with that is there's a Penn State campus within an easy drive of almost anywhere in the state of PA. So if they want to return and they are Pennsylvania residents prior to entering service and want to return to where their family is, they have an opportunity to do that and pursue their degrees. And also, the value of the Penn State degree. You can never overstress, what kind of doors that will open for them. And then at the end of the day too, we have a lot of great programs and services which do pull in the veterans to Penn State. And a lot of our students come to us because of word of mouth from other veterans and military members who are currently at Penn State. So as far as the campuses, we serve just over 5,000 students who are taking advantage of GI Bill benefits. The numbers overlaid on each of the campuses are the number of folks who are taking advantage of GI Bill benefits at each of our campuses. So you can say University Park, we have roughly 800. Out of that 800, about 500 are veterans and the other 300 to 400 are dependents. And it varies through all the other campuses. And we have campuses with as few as 7 veterans on campus. When you look at World Campus in the upper right-hand corner, almost 3,000 students at World Campus with a military connection. And then our ROTCs, we have about 635 on average every year between the 3 different services or departments. So what are our veterans studying? And what this snapshot is of the University Park campus. So a lot of our veterans gravitate towards engineering or liberal arts. So that's probably the biggest area where they pursue their studies. Next in line after that is really health and human development or information science technology. And then after that, things such as science, agriculture, earth and mineral science, and then DUS for those who are undecided. So pretty good community there. Also take note of the fact that we have 15 veterans who are over at Penn State Law, which is pretty neat. As far as our mission and what we see as our mission in the veteran space at Penn State, it's to serve our student veterans to enable their access to all aspects of higher education and empower them to exceed not only while they're here at Penn State, but also as they transition to their post-education endeavors. When I kind of take a look at it from an objective perspective, this is what we look at. We look at prepare, transition, educate, empower, and sustain. And as I put up this slide, there's some of the words that are grayed out. Those are areas where we currently don't provide services in this space, and the black is where we do. So I think, right now we do a lot from the standpoint of providing information up front and sponsoring in students to provide that information front door. But there's a lot of things I think we can do as an institution to kind of help jumpstart students in their academic journey, especially when you're talking about folks who have maybe been out of the academic environment for up to 4 to 8 years, or maybe even more in some cases. So that's future duty for me to take care of. As far as the transition for the students, it is a big transition sometimes coming back in here, not only academically, but from the environments of the military environment to the university environment. And we help the students in that regard by encouraging them through our support in the community that we build with the other student veterans and the faculty and staff at Penn State. We also enable them through the services and programming that we provide in veteran services. On the education side, when the students show up here at orientation and we talk to them, I tell them that their mission now is to expand their horizons as much as they can within legal limits, and also to walk away with a Penn State degree. And we seek opportunities for our military service members and veterans to do that through curricular activity, extracurricular activity, and co-curricular opportunities. As far as the empowerment piece, at the end of the day, if they're taking advantage of everything we have here to offer at Penn State, there's something next that they have to do, right? They can't stay at Penn State forever. So we want to make sure that we work towards helping them with mentoring opportunities, career counseling, career fairs, and things of that nature to empower them to succeed in what comes next. And then finally, we need to sustain this effort, and that comes down to having a development drive to help us fund our programming and services. And the one area that we haven't really tapped in yet is really the alumni connection piece. While we do a great job of tracking our ROTC graduates, we don't necessarily have a great way of tracking our folks who come through that are veterans that have not gone through Penn State ROTC. So really it's kind of part of my tasks for future is to kind of build that alumni connection. What I'm looking at there is opportunities for mentorship and also potentially opportunities to provide internships and other career type opportunities out there for these students as they transition to the next thing after Penn State. So what I would say that we provide as a baseline for services for our veteran services are what's highlighted in black on the slide. So it really comes down to helping them gain access to their GI Bill benefits, helping them transition into college. And at almost every campus, I think there's maybe the exception of one or two campuses, we have student veteran organizations at our campuses that help provide some peer-to-peer support and mentoring there. And then military appreciation events, I'll talk a little bit about that later, but at most of our campuses, we have some recognition of military service, whether that's a Veterans Day ceremony all the way up to military appreciation sporting events. Now the areas in gray we do at, I would say approximately maybe a third or a half of our campuses, but we do all three of those up here at University Park because of our resources. So we have a great peer-to-peer mentoring and support program. In our Office of Veterans Programs, which serves the student veterans up here at University Park, we have 2 certified social worker counselors, and we also just have a new person join the team that's a substance abuse counselor. And then we have a brand new student veteran space, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. When it comes to some of the highlights of the services we provide, probably the top rated thing that we do is really our peer-to-peer sponsorship, mentoring, and support. And essentially what we do is we have work study students who are student veterans here that reach out to our incoming student veteran class to kind of answer their questions, talk about the Penn State experience, and give them what we call in the military the gouge of coming on board at Penn State and what it's all about. And the neat thing about this is that as military members, when we transition from a base to a base in our assignments, we always have a contact number or someone at the base we're coming to that acts as our sponsor. So this is something that they're very familiar with as far as a type of a program, and it rolls in nicely to help them transition as they come to Penn State. The other neat thing, it's a self-sustaining program. So usually the folks who take advantage of this and get sponsored coming in are just chomping at the bit to be the folks who are now the sponsors for the incoming class after them. So it's a really neat program. We also have, a list of faculty and staff and also members in the local community that have volunteered to be mentors for our student veterans. So if we have student veterans who are going in a particular career field or are interested in a particular area, we can tap into these folks as a resource to kind of set them up and have our student veterans talk to them about careers and opportunities in those areas. We also have a military connected new student orientation program, which is separate and distinct from the new student orientation, which all first year students go in. We bring them in here, the students in here for a orientation just prior to the start of the semester. We talk about things about VA benefits, other resources that are on campus, and things that they can take advantage of as students with a military connection while they're at Penn State. We also have a program called Transition is the Mission, and all our first year students have to take a first year seminar class. So just over 2 years ago, the Office of Vet Programs developed a class that is focused for our military and veteran students. And we talk a lot about VA benefits outside of the education piece, so the medical benefits. We talk about networking, we talk about resume writing, we talk about a lot of things to help the veterans transition during their first year at Penn State. And it also gives the student veterans an opportunity to talk with each other. And this is a chance for them to check in at the beginning of class. We always start off by, hey, what's going on in your world today? How are things going? And each of the students kind of talk about their experiences in class and in the community and transitioning. And it gives the opportunity for all the other student veterans to see that they're not alone in their journey and what's happening and some of the challenges that they're also facing. We also, as far as the transitions to mission class, we also offer that virtually out to the other campuses outside of University Park. So I already mentioned the student veteran organizations. We have those at each of the campuses. Up here at University Park, we have 4 student vet organizations. We have a co-ed fraternity. We have a social veteran organization. We have an MBA veteran organization. And then there's a veteran organization that's both veteran and civilian over at the military law. We also recognize our military students at each commencement each year. Just prior to commencement, we hold a military honor course ceremony where Dr. Barron presents each of the students with a red, white, and blue military honor cord that they wear with their cap and gown at commencement. So it's a really nice ceremony to kind of recognize their journey, their service to our nation, and also just basically their success as far as completing their Penn State journey at this point. Also, just to talk a little bit about over at the law school, there's a Veterans and Service Members Legal Clinic. This clinic is available to anybody that's a veteran. It doesn't have to be a PA resident. It doesn't have to have any ties to the university. But what they do is they take on cases where veterans are having problems accessing their VA benefits. It's a pro bono thing where current law students work with faculty and staff on different cases. And this is a great service because they have recouped well over $600,000 worth of benefits for the veterans who have utilized this clinic. And our students learn a great deal about the VA and veteran law in the process. And then the last thing to kind of really highlight is our Military Appreciation Week that we put on here at University Park, usually tied closely with Veterans Day. But you all should be very proud of this as Penn State alum, as I am. It is the biggest event of its kind in the Big Ten. We do week-long events where we bring speakers in. We do different engagements with the local community student body. We have a Veterans Day ceremony. We have a Veterans Luncheon. Last year we had, I think, just about 20 World War II veterans come to our luncheon as the theme was World War II last year. And it's just a great opportunity to kind of, recognize the service of our veterans that are in the community and also to engage these students and the local community. We also, in conjunction with this, put on a football game where we give over 7,000 free football tickets away to military service members, veterans, their families, and Gold Star families. And we put on a large free tailgate at Bryce Jordan Center prior to it. So again, it's something that's no one comes close to out there and something you should be really proud that we do as Penn Staters. As far as other things that we show our commitment, we're in the process of waiving our application fee for our MilVet students. We give MilVet students priority registration, and there's also over 50 scholarships that have a military or veteran preference or tie that we have here at Penn State. Outside of that, we have the Clearinghouse for Military Family and Readiness, which does research for the Department of Defense on family resiliency and readiness for our military service members. So it's a great program, and there's great things that come out of that for our service members. And we also partner with the Pennsylvania Department of Military and Veteran Affairs where we can on different initiatives that the state is doing. We're currently involved in working with the state of Pennsylvania on the Governor's Challenge for suicide prevention among veteran and military service members. So the Student Veteran Center has been a huge project, and really what it came out of is a need. When I first started into the position in 2017, I surveyed the student population, and the number one thing that the student veterans requested was a space for them to study in and a student lounge where they could build a sense of community with other student veterans on campus. Not only that, but it's also a best practice within the veteran space to kind of provide something of this nature for our students at the institutions of higher education. So what it's all about is this mission of building a strong veteran community. And the reason why it is so important is that the most successful programs that we have in the veteran and military space are those that engage peer-to-peer support and mentoring. And so in order to do that, we need to kind of find an area where we can build this sense of veteran community where folks feel free to drop in and to engage with their peers. So that's why we did this. And it's all about empowering these student veterans so they can succeed while they're here at Penn State and beyond. So the concept of the Student Veteran Center we've created up here at University Park is dedicated veteran space where we co-locate specific services and activities. So where we provide our services for GI Bill benefits and other things such as counseling, we've also created a student study area, a student lounge, peer-to-peer counseling rooms, and also provided some student org space for our 4 veteran organizations that we have up here at University Park. And it provides activity space for our MilVet community or our Mil-connected students. And we have a lot of multi-use rooms as part of this too. The importance of having the multi-use rooms is that there are a lot of programs and services that are provided outside of the university, not only at the state and federal level, but also through nonprofit organizations. So we wanted to be able to provide space where we can pull in some of these resources so our students on campus could take advantage of these things. And also one of the other areas I'm excited about as part of this Veteran Center is that, it will not only benefit the University Park students, but it will also benefit our 24 other campuses. Usually it's very easy to get corporate engagement or pull people into University Park because of our size of our student body. It's much more difficult to do that at campuses where we only have 450 students and particularly maybe only 7 student veterans. So what we're going to do is use the Student Veteran Center to provide programming to pull these entities into University Park, but then present that out virtually to all our other campuses so our students across the Penn State institution can take advantage of it, to include online for World Campus. So as far as what we've done, for those of you who are long in the tooth, as I am, we are over in Rittenhour building. So we took over where the hospital used to be. It used to be the waiting room, I distinctly remember, but over that part of the campus. And we've taken over the west wing, first floor of Rittenhour building. So what we've provided there is on the top in orange and green, you can see that that's where we provide the services for our students with the Office of Veterans Programs and also my office. And then in the area in blue, that's the student lounge facing Pollock Road. And then we have a student study area and conference room that's highlighted in red. So just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like for those of you who haven't been able to make it back to University Park. And you all have an open invitation. Anytime you're up here on campus, please drop in and see. I'll give you a free nickel and dime tour of our Student Veteran Center. But this is the student service space. This is the student lounge. So kind of like a hub type environment for the students to relax. We have a kitchenette here as well where they can take advantage of that. And then on the wall, we have lockers for the students to utilize to drop off their stuff during the day, because a lot of our student veterans are actually commuters. This is the student study area and the study space. So where we're at on the project right now, we've opened about 2/3 of the project up. We're completing the rest of the space, which is the study space and the conference room, and hope to have that open prior to beginning of fall semester. We're still fundraising for this, and any help that you can lend in this area would be greatly appreciated. Okay, talk a little bit about mindset and a few things out there in the veteran space. I'm sure we've all heard of, the thank you for your service kind of sentiment that's been going around for quite a while right now. This is received differently. You can ask different veterans and they'll have a different reaction for the thank you for your service. But what it all comes down to, as a veteran myself, I do appreciate this, but we here at Penn State want to make sure that it's more than just saying thank you for your service, and we put that into action in any way we can. And that's by taking a look at what our needs and requirements are for our students and making sure that if there's any areas where they are impeded because of their military service, their current continuing military service or prior service, that we work to take those barriers away. What it comes down to as well, it's about culture. You'll hear out there that there's a lot of organizations that will give a veteran-friendly rating, and there's really no standard for what veteran-friendly means at the end of the day. And we here at Penn State feel that it's more about just a rating. It's about a culture. It's about being welcoming. It's about understanding the challenges that our veterans face in transition. It's about also understanding that these are young men and women that have gone into very austere locations to complete missions with limited resources and limited time, and have, executed the mission and been successful at it. So they have a lot of credibility with respect to their soft skills, their leadership ability, and we need to treat them as such when they come to our institution. And then, really about talking about empowerment versus entitlement. And, as a veteran, my personal opinion is that I'm not owed anything. I volunteered to serve this country. I was proud to do so. And that's pretty much how most of our veterans think. So when it comes down to it, it's not about entitlement, it's about empowerment. So really, when we think about it, it's really veterans as a resource at the end of the day. We have these young men and women who are phenomenally capable in a lot of different ways. So let's utilize them. Let's utilize them for our corporations. Let's utilize them in our local communities. So they've done their time serving our country. They have a strong service ethic. Well, let's help them, further themselves through higher education, and now, help them excel in whatever post-service endeavor they want to take part of. So that's all I have for my comments. I'm now going to leave it open, bring down the slides, and open it up for questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Colonel McFeely. So first question I'm actually interested in is, because you are a Penn State alumnus, talk about what your path to Penn State was, and how did you become a Nittany Lion?
Yeah, it's actually, I'm from Philadelphia area originally, but I actually grew up overseas, and I spent time in Saudi Arabia and Northern Ireland as a child. So I actually finished my high school years in Northern Ireland, of all places. But my older brother had already come back to Pennsylvania, where we all started, and he started at Penn State and joined the ROTC program. So he, really talked it up. We made it sound great. I'd always wanted to come back to Penn State as a university. So I said, what the heck, I'll try this out. And, part of it too is growing up overseas, you get a very different perspective of life. In countries like Saudi Arabia and Northern Ireland, with the political situation and things going on over there, you just see how free our country is and how much opportunity there is here. And to be to give back in some way, shape, or form to that was really part of my initial motivation for joining the service. That, and I was very interested in the flying side of the business, and Top Gun was pretty big during that time frame, even though it's Navy. I'll use that as an example, but it just really was something that piqued my curiosity. And to be honest, Paul, once I first started off, I was only in for my initial stint, but what really held me and kept me in service was the importance of what we do on a daily basis in our military, and the people that you serve alongside. And that's really what started me off from an initial 6-year tour to 27 years later. Here I am.
Yeah, we actually have a staff member. I know she's tuning in right now, Kathy Leonard Hall. Shout out to you on our staff. Kathy also grew up in Northern Ireland and finished her high school there before coming stateside here and eventually working at Penn State. Talk a little bit about, or maybe walk us through your career in terms of the military side, and then how did this position kind of get on your radar as an opportunity to come home and serve Penn State?
Yeah, sure. So, initially, I had a great experience here as a Penn State student, especially in ROTC. I would say that when I showed up here, I was very introverted, not as outgoing as I am today. And, I learned a great deal from the leaders and mentors that were part of the ROTC program here at Penn State when I was a student. So I would say that, my time here at Penn State was transformative for me. There's no other way to put it. It really changed my life in a lot of different ways. So, once I left Penn State, I, went through all the initial flight training in school for that. And my career field stayed with the operational side of the Air Force in the fighter aviation side of the house. So I pretty much stayed in fighter aviation my entire time. The time when I was not physically flying, I was an operational planner. So still on the operations side, planning, doing war planning and different things of that nature throughout the time. And my first duty post-training was to North Carolina, spent time at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base there. From there, moved to Idaho, Boise, Idaho, or just south of Boise, Idaho, to Mountain Home Air Force Base. Spent time in Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. Spent time in South Korea and Rhode Island, back here to Carlisle Barracks. Had to do a penance tour at the Pentagon, and all roads lead to the Pentagon eventually. And then I had a year overseas as a remote tour in Afghanistan, and then back to South Carolina. And all during that time, because of my career field, I didn't have the opportunity to do ROTC. And I got so much out of my ROTC experience. So I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to come back and, be that inspiration, hopefully in some way, shape, or form, to the students in the way that my instructors were when I was here. So, when I was at Shaw Air Force Base, the opportunity did arise where Penn State was opening up for the detachment command position. And at the time, this gentleman by the name of General Goldfein was my boss, who's now was the previous Chief Staff of the Air Force. And I said, boss, I know I haven't quite done my full time here at Shaw, but this is something I've wanted to do all my career. And he gave me the opportunity to go ahead and apply for that. And I ended up, gaining the position at Penn State. Funny story though, while Penn State was available at the same time as Michigan and Ohio State, I was so jazzed to get the call that I was accepted to be an ROTC commander. When I hung up, I forgot it if they said Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan. And I said, well, I can't go home. It's the other two. So luckily it was Penn State, and here I was. So after I, doing my tour, and I was coming towards the end of my tour at Penn State, this became a position that was available. It was a brand new position Dr. Barron was creating at Penn State. And I always wanted to do something with the veteran community in my post-military service. I'm just so drawn to this community because of my feelings that, after serving 27 years with these same men and women, to be able to do something for them in my post-military service, I couldn't turn down. And to do it here at Penn State, yeah, it's I get on bended knee every day to be thankful for the opportunities afforded me to do this.
Absolutely. It's definitely a privilege and definitely a calling to be able to come back and work for this institution. Now I could have this wrong, so you correct me, but I remember reading that, a lot of times when we think of military personnel returning from a theater of war, our thoughts go back to World War II when there was the influx of the GIs coming in, and then the return of GIs from Vietnam. And yet, I think what we forget, or at least what maybe goes ignored, is that over the past 20 years, we have more military personnel returning from a theater of war and going to a college campus to study than at any point in the history of our country. And so these offices that you have stood up are more and more important because these students returning from that type of military service often needs that hand on their shoulders to help navigate the new lifestyle. Talk about some of the specific services that you have stood up in recognition of the men and women who are coming back from those particular experiences.
Yeah, so, just to touch on that a little bit, as far as the numbers, Paul, I'm not sure. That's something I'll have to research now from, the sheer number of folks that are returning. But I would say that over a time span, since, Desert Storm through now, there has been a lot of people over a span of time transitioning back from the service to higher education. Almost every year, there's roughly about 200,000 men and women who separate from the service. And the VA advertises that, I think it was last year, they had just shy of 1 million people that were taking advantage of GI Bill benefits. So there is a large population of folks that are coming to take advantage of that great benefit. And what it really comes down to is, how do we help them make that transition? Because leaving the military, you're in a very close-knit environment where you know exactly what your path is a lot of times and what's expected of you. And you step into a university environment where now it's the menu is limitless of what you can do and how you can do it. When the young men and women are serving in the service, they have a unit, which is where they belong. They have a rank, which kind of places them where they are in that unit, and they have a very defined mission. And so when they come to a university environment, it's more like the world is your oyster. There's so many options out there. How do we help them navigate this and what's in the realm of the possible? So it really comes down to helping with those transition services. And our Office of Veteran Programs up here at University Park has done a phenomenal job with helping with that transition piece. Some of the things that we've kind of changed, with me coming on board here at the university is just kind of trying to coordinate and collaborate more with a lot of the different stovepipes that we have across the institution. And that's really why, Dr. Barron knew we did a lot of great things for our military service members and our veterans at Penn State, but we needed more connective tissue between all these stovepipes and how we could start closing some of the gaps that did exist. And even more importantly, how do we, take advantage of some opportunities out there to, be, the best in certain areas within the MilVet community. So it's really kind of, bringing folks together, knowing where we're doing different things within the stovepipes and say, hey, did you happen to know that the Military Clearinghouse is doing a study on this? And helping them make connections with other parts of our institution or even with, our state resources that are out there and things of that nature. I think that I've taken a great program as far as the military appreciation piece and just kind of walked it to the next logical piece. And, that's a great story. There's great guys out there that are professors here at the institution, Todd Backestow, Stan Ongst. Those guys are the guys who started this almost 9 years ago with a program that was only, 100 football tickets. And it's evolved into this week-long event with lots of tickets, a big tailgate, and things of that nature. And both Stan and Todd are Vietnam-era veterans. And they had a very, very different experience coming back to Penn State and back to Pennsylvania after military service. And both of those guys took that on as a charge to change that. So no veteran would ever have the same experience that they had coming back to Penn State, or Pennsylvania for that matter. And so, that's where this thing all started, and it's just kind of taken off. And we have a lot of great supporters. We couldn't do this without, folks like the Walmart Corporation and, Penn Staters and Penn State fans who actually help fund through the Seats for Service members the free tickets that we give out every year. So it's just things of that nature. And I think, one of the greatest things Dr. Barron said to me the first day I stepped into my duties was build the Veteran Center at University Park. So I think it's just a tremendous resource for our student veterans. Like I said, 2/3 of that is complete now. We're trying to get it across the finish line with opening up the additional study space that we're creating. But it's just a tremendous resource for our students. And my office door is right at the entry to the center. So hearing what the veterans say as they walk in the front door and see that facility and what's available to them is pretty humbling. So it's just a great opportunity to kind of marry that piece of services with community. So if we have veterans out there who are shying away from maybe engaging with the other veterans on campus, maybe they're coming in to get their VA benefits and then they say, hey, look at this over here. There's a whole bunch of guys and gals having some lunch. Maybe I'll just drop in and start talking to them. So it just gives us an opportunity to build some connections with our students and help them be part of the community. Now, it's a fine line that we have to walk because we don't want the students spending all their time in the Veteran Center. We just want it to be there as a safety net. So as they come in and transition, it's somewhere to land. But I want them across the street in the hub. I want them engaging the student body and doing all the things that normal Penn State students do here during the course of their time. So,
Absolutely. I think of distributed workforces, right? And I think the greatest example of one of the best examples of a distributed workforce is our military. But you have your home base here at University Park, and yet you serve veterans and military students at all of our campuses. Talk about some of the infrastructure that's in place, some of the partnerships that are there to help you do that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, each of the campuses has someone that's there as a liaison, and we call them school certifying officials. So their primary job is to help the students gain access to their education benefits, and so that the tuition bill is paid at the end of the day, they get their housing stipend and different things of that nature. But we also leverage them as veteran liaisons. So we started up doing virtual meetings on a monthly basis to kind of share best practices, different things that are going on within the community, and also to provide information because the VA is a big beast and there's a lot of policies and a lot of changes that need to be managed with that. So, really the Office of Veterans Programs here at University Park leads with all our VA policy guidance and different things like that, and tries to help all the other campuses instead of having 24 different people trying to interpret policy and what we're doing. We kind of do that together now. And it really helps free up some time for folks. The other piece too is that when we start things such as the Military Honor Cord ceremony, that was a brand new thing that we started here within the last 2 years. So as part of that, we build that program, right? So here's the script, here's how you set up the flags. If you want to do this at your own campus, this is how you can do it. So we seek opportunities like that to kind of help extend some of the programs that we can do up here at University Park because we have more resources, and try to help it make it easier for the Commonwealth campuses to do things of that nature if they want to do that at their own campus. And then, for a Military Honor Cord ceremony, if anybody ever wants to make the trip from any of the Commonwealth campuses, we'll always advertise it out. They're always welcome to come. And actually, we have a lot of folks from the World Campus that come for the Military Honor Cord ceremony. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, and we're proud to play a small part in that by providing the Military Honor Cords to those graduates. We appreciate you including us at the Alumni Association in that very celebratory but important and kind of solemn event that you put on each semester. And so if you haven't attended it, or if you're a veteran or a military service member who's getting ready to graduate, make that part of your graduation plans because it's certainly a ceremony that you will remember.
Yeah, and Paul's being humble. He plays more than just a small part in that. He does a lot for us to help facilitate that ceremony every year and other things that we do with military appreciation. So, Paul, I thank you for everything you do for us.
Well, we appreciate it. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit the world, right? And every time you turn on the news, you see how the military is playing a role, whether it's pulling ships into New York Harbor. You've heard about how the Navy has been very supportive of the fight against COVID-19. Talk a little bit about how you're approaching that from your office in terms of continuing to provide the same level of service to veterans and to the military service members that utilize your services, but now have to do that in kind of our new normal of COVID-19.
Yeah, so just like every other student, our military and veteran students face the same challenge from the perspective of now remote learning and the different things that come with that. But the kind of sometimes the unique spin that it plays on this is that, there's different, for their veterans, there's different rule sets that are in place for them to have access to their veterans benefits. And with COVID-19 and the switch from in-person to remote learning, you would think would not be a big deal, but it was a huge deal because it's legislated, how those benefits are accessed and what qualifies for a class or not and things of that nature. So really part of that was working with our brother and sister Big Ten institutions to see where the challenges are and then engage some of these nonprofit organizations who, lobby for student veterans, as well as, kind of highlighting some of the issues our students are going through. So an example would be some of our student veterans rely on VA work study. With the change in having remote learning, there was a huge impact for those students. And, we basically worked with some of these organizations. We worked with our Office of Government and Community Relations office to kind of push forward that we need legislation to change how our students are able to take advantage of these programs in this time of COVID. So there was a lot of effort that went towards that. And lo and behold, Congress and the Senate passed several pieces of legislation which helped our students. So really from our perspective, that's how we engage to help the students with respect to that. The other piece too is in the Scene Center where I talked about National Guard. We have a lot of folks that are in the Guard that are here at Penn State as resident students, and several were activated as part of the COVID response. So it's really kind of working with them where they have challenges maybe from the academic perspective or some of their professors about fully understanding and appreciating, what's going on. The first course is, hey, is there any way we can help them continue to pursue their degree? And if not, how do we gracefully let them, withdraw from the class without any penalty? Because the bottom line is they're here serving not only our nation, but our local communities. How can we help them either continue or withdraw and not feel impacted by that as much as possible?
And does that include military students coming to? So I know you do a military new student orientation. Is that available across the Commonwealth as well? And is that going to be delivered virtually?
So currently, it's available at University Park only for the new student orientation piece. Each campus has their own orientation programs. And where we have capacity, there's some of the campuses that provide their own military veteran orientation. The goal in the future, as we kind of move out, is to be able to do this, that if there are campuses that are unable to support a orientation themselves, is, as you stated, Paul, is to see if we could set something up virtually to do that for students coming in.
Right. So a couple questions coming in here. Give a shout out to Robert Peppard and to Ed Bremy. Ed flew F-4s and F-14s as a plane captain. And then Robert gives a shout out to Bob Fedorchik and being an important part of his Penn State experience. Both of them asking the same question. They're asking, how can people get involved? Are there volunteer opportunities available through your program for Penn Staters with a similar background?
Sure. There's a lot of different ways that you can get involved. Obviously, the easy one is the development piece. We have several scholarships that are out there. One that I'll highlight is the Military Student Fund here at Penn State. All the proceeds that go into this non-endowed scholarship go 100% to the students every year. So whatever we raise each year goes directly to the student. It benefits currently serving service members. It benefits student veterans. It benefits spouses of veterans who are trying to get their degrees. And it's not just tied to a campus. It could be any campus across Penn State to include rural campus. So there's things like that we always welcome support and help with respect to that. The other side of this is kind of keep your eye out, because as we move forward and we start really getting to that gray space of alumni that I had under my sustain effort, I'm going to need your help from the standpoint of I'm going to eventually reach out to our alumni to tap into veterans that are out there to either provide mentorship opportunities in different career fields. Because while we do have folks here in the local area that do provide and help us with that, we don't cover down on all the possible career fields that are out there or areas of study. So, you know, that'd be great to be able to leverage the alumni network for that. And also to leverage the alumni network for folks who are currently in corporations and businesses across the U.S. that have internship opportunities that pop up or career opportunities. We definitely want to leverage that because, you know, especially if you're a veteran alumni, you fully understand and appreciate what a veteran brings to the table and what a Penn State degree brings to the table. So let's bring both those powerful things together and provide opportunity for some students who are starting out.
I can't think of a better way to wrap up our session than on those final words right there. You talked about the difference between thank you for your service and action. The best way you can thank a service member at Penn State is by taking action and going ahead and supporting the new Veteran Center and making a small gift to help our veteran and military students at Penn State. Colonel McFeely, thank you so much for joining us on the virtual speaker series this afternoon.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thanks a lot for the opportunity again, Paul.
Absolutely. As a reminder, we'll be hosting more speaker sessions in the coming weeks and months. You can get all of that information at alumni.psu.edu/events. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, we are.
I was muted. Penn State.